How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samara Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samara Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samara. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samara Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Tom, was there a robbery aboard that cruise ship?
Kevin, I am at a loss for words right now, which is probably bad for a podcast.
This is Pack Your Knives. I'm Kevin Arnovitz.
And I'm Tom Haberstroh.
Tom, I can't recall a recent season or any season where the verdict at the final judges table threw us for a greater loop, came as a bigger surprise. The Pack Your Knives community had a live chat during the episode on Wednesday night, and they were despondent. There were boos. Tom, there were boos in the private chat. What happened during the Top Chef season 21 finale with Danny Garcia pulling it out over Dan Jacobs and Savannah Miller? I want to hear. I'm just going to give you the floor, Tom.
I don't understand it. I don't understand how just about every dish that Danny put out was beautiful but flawed. It was underseasoned, needed more salt. This was raw lobster, not cooked well. I had him winning one dish of the 4, and it was the dessert. One dish. I scored it as a Danny victory. Dan should be so upset right now with the judges because I felt like he deserved to be the winner. This was Dan Jacobs' Top Chef crown. This was his jacket. This was his trophy. This was his fucking award. He should have had this. He cooked his ass off. He was the most flawless cook. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand it beyond the fact that Danny had the most tweezery cook, the most tweezery 4 courses of the season. This isn't Top Chef. This is Top Tweezer. That's what it signals to me. And Dan didn't have the storytelling that Danny might have had, which is odd because I think the blank slate works better. It typically works better when you just say, look, I'm just going to cook from the heart here. And Dan did that with I'm here now. This is me now, whatever. He didn't have to do the memories or anything like that. He's just, I'm going to cook my food right now. The tuna tartare was surprising. It was delicious. It was bright. The grilled snapper was awesome. The dashi everyone fucking loved. And the oxtail was the best dish of the night. It was the best dish. They all loved it. And then the yogurt mousse was fantastic with the surprising salted phyllo. I don't have any notes here other than this is a shoo-in for Dan. I'm congratulating Dan in my office as I'm already like clapping for him, like happy for him. Forget the Kennedy's disease right now for a moment. I'm not giving him a charity case or any sort of points for that. This is on the merits of the dish, what we saw the judges table say. I scored him winning 2 dishes and second in the other 2. Not a bad dish on the night. And yes, Danny had some really high notes, but I am stunned. I am stunned right now, Kevin, that Danny won this. It's not that he's an unworthy Top Chef. It's just, if we're going to score this based on this meal and this meal alone, I can't fathom that they awarded Top Chef to Danny. I am stunned right now. What a terrible trade by me. But I buried the lead. I traded Savannah for Savannah. I traded the Top Chef winner in the bottom of the ninth. It just is, it's horrible. And I gave you the win. So the 25-point round.
Well, admittedly, Tom, I had Dan Jacobs as well. So I would have won had your preferred outcome existed.
True. I drafted Danny at the very top. I was a big fan of him. I still am a huge fan of him. And I should say, he is going through a world of hurt right now when he lost his best friend, James Kent, his restaurant mentor, his friend, his business partner, and hats off to him. I feel so bad, and I'm glad he got a shout out in today's edit for the episode. And we are going to talk to Savannah, Dan, and Danny, which we recorded before the finale. And so I feel like I'm being harsh right now and not being considerate to the whole circumstances and all that. But Dan should have won. I'm sorry.
I'm coming up with a theory of mind, and I don't disagree. I have this scored for Dan.
You do?
I have it scored for Dan pretty decisively. You and I might have underrated how repellent some of the judges found the texture in the tuna tartare, and I think it came through in the sort of later judges' conversation.
Must have. Yep.
Kristen saying that, under no circumstances should the texture of the tuna tartare mimic the texture of the grapefruit. But even without that, I think I have it scored for Dan. That said, I'm kind of fascinated with what the verdict means and what it says about the show.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the theory of mine I have for the judge who says, no, Danny actually is Top Chef. And again, it doesn't offend me, I think, the way it offends you. But I do have it scored for Dan Jacobs decisively. But what I think they're saying is this. And you saw, I think, Gail during the deliberations hit this note more than one time, which is this is the finale. And we want chefs who are going to stretch the boundaries of creativity. We want chefs to show us things we have never seen. We eat at restaurants as essentially as a vocation. We want to see dishes we have never seen before. And so as much as you might value, hey, Dan just nailed his grilled snapper and his grilled and braised pumpkin and his smoked dashi with all those nuanced hints. But at the end of the day, it was a very well prepared piece of fish with a dashi, with a kind of a starch vegetable. It was the Manny version of a seafood dish, right? Give me a protein, give me that, and that, whereas, okay, was Danny's smoked mussel and charred cabbage and plantain chip and smoked mussel mayo, was it a little difficult to eat? It was challenging. Yeah, that's what we're here for, with all due respect to Dan. I'm just making the argument for Danny as the way the judges want to say it. They might say, hey, braised oxtail and dumplings. That's lovely. Okay. And some fried Brussels sprout sleeves. This guy's putting together, I Googled chaza sauce and couldn't find it, right? It's kind of he is putting together two disparate sauces and they sing in a way that, yes, Dan's food is comforting, but Danny's food is revolutionary. And I think that's what they're saying. And then he has just enough narrative, right? I have to say, it was, for as grumpy as Tom Colicchio has been all season, I thought his just beautiful poetic tribute to Danny's dessert, like, you know what I love about this dish? You start with an 8-year-old walking down the street with his grandpa in Brooklyn, and then, 20 years later, this is what you get. Like, this is the beauty of what chefs become, their origin stories. It just is almost the simplest Brooklyn outer borough street dessert, whatever you want to call it. Like, and here you are in the most refined interpretation, coming from this Brooklyn kid of Puerto Rican heritage, and wow, that is why we come here. And so I think what the show is basically saying is you must have a certain technical aspiration, and you must clear that threshold to be named Top Chef in this competition. You don't have to be Budalo, but you better at least pretend to be Boodle.
Yes.
You better pretend to be Kristen Kish, a technical chef. Somebody in our live chat said, hey, as much as it might seem like Danny, Kristen is going to go to bat, or so much as it might seem like Dan is going to be named winner, Kristen is going to go to bat for Danny. She has loved his food all season. She is a technical chef who loves technical ambitions. And that is, it's very much, I think, the theory of mind that puts Danny over Dan. I disagree with the verdict, but I understand.
I still don't understand it. Okay, so I'm imagining two boxers, okay? They're in the ring, and one of them has just an outrageous amount of technique and new modern vision, and his strategies are new and refreshing, and it's from the new style. But the other boxer's old school, and he's punching him directly in the nose. Jaw after jaw after jaw. And then the scorers are looking at the card and they're like, yeah, but did you see him sway around there? He might have landed all those punches, but his technique was so refined that, yeah, the other guy landed right, a haymaker left and right, but we've seen that before. And I'm like, well, he landed the punches, and that's what this is all about. And I get it. The vision was a lot more sophisticated. It was more technical. I get it. But it was also underseasoned. And that kept coming up. And so it's one thing to shoot for the moon and shoot for higher heights, but it's also important to note that it wasn't just about the idea and the presentation and the Instagram aspect of these dishes. He didn't land them in ways that we came up with critiques of, hey, this was hard to eat. It was very confusing. And yes, maybe that's not on the chef to like tell someone how to eat their food, but that has come up before as a legitimate critique in Top Chef is, how am I supposed to eat this? It was very confusing. The second thing is, again, underseasoned. That is usually a cardinal sin on the show. And Dan landed his punches and it didn't matter. Ultimately, I would love to know how close this was. I know they said it was close. Maybe they always say that, but I felt like Dan executed all of his dishes and simply put, Danny didn't.
Yeah. I mean, look, I am very sympathetic to your argument.
I'm shocked.
I am entirely sympathetic. I would have voted for Dan. Again, I mean, we, of course, did not taste the food. So, and this is, again, the most difficult part of being analysts, right? is we didn't have it. But I think if you're Gail Simmons, you might say, hey, did Dan do anything remotely as interesting as a breadfruit and nori tuile? Did he do anything as remotely as interesting as candied seaweed? Did he do anything was as good as his, dashi was? You could argue, hey, chaza sauce plus salsa matcha. I've never seen those things in combination, and that Danny was stretching limits in a way that, Dan gave us great food. And hey, that's why he was in the finale. This would be the argument, I think, somebody like Gail, or frankly, even Kristen, you love Kristen's sentimentality, but with that, you are also going to have to take the fact that this is a chef who really values the sorts of skills that Danny brings. Frankly, he values them more than the sorts of skills Dan brings. And that's okay. I mean, people are allowed to have preferences. I feel your pain, man. It's interesting. I do think Top Chef values itself as, hey, this ain't top crowd pleaser. It's Top Chef.
It's Top Tweezer. Sorry.
There are a million grandmas and abuelas across the great land of the United States of America that can make delicious food. We want people who can do a breadfruit and frigging nori tuile. And you might call it tweezer food, but they would say, look, they're the ivory tower of cooking reality shows. It's why we love the show. We do. Look at the lineage of the chefs we've created over the course of a generation. I mean, I think that would be an insult to Dan Jacobs, who clearly has technical skills. I mean, that's the thing. We're not talking about a guy who just served a one-pot meal. I mean, so if I can go, I'm going to go rogue here and kind of join you for a second. Like, I'm sorry. I would understand the decision a little more if somehow Dan Jacobs were bereft in some of these skills. I mean, you don't do the smoked dashi, without some serious technique. There's a lot of nuance to his food, and the yogurt mousse, the charred pineapple compote. Again, he's not playing with chemistry the way Danny is, but there's a lot going on there, and that I think is the best argument for Dan. Is just like, hey, it'd be one thing if he were just throwing together, hey, I'm home cooking. No, there's some serious freaking refined skill there too. It just doesn't reside where Danny's resides.
Let's talk about that tartare, okay? The tartare, they all, I think, agreed. It was delicious. The black garlic labneh was outstanding. The garlic chips, the ruby red grapefruit, the tartare, they said, was a weird texture, that it was indistinguishable from the grapefruit, and that is a no-no. However, I would posit that when they asked him how he did his tuna, did you see Gail with this astonishment and looking at Tom with this kind of admiration of like, holy shit, that's impressive what he decided to do.
Do we know that was the look, or was it, what the hell is that guy thinking? Look.
I think it was a look of, wow.
I defer to you. You're good at the reads, man.
Apparently not, because I thought it was Dan who was going to win based on Kristen Kish's voice. So I thought that was a look of like, impressive. They were clearly not impressed. And the idea, if they said it didn't, the element of surprise is usually a good thing.
Right.
The element of like, that's not normally how I would expect a tuna tartare, the texture to feel, but it clearly didn't go as a point for Dan because they were like confused. But in some ways, Tom was confused about the candied seaweed, but they went in the other direction, that it was a good choice. And I'm just sitting here being like, surprise shouldn't be a negative.
I think the difference was, I think the candied seaweed, he was skeptical just on the description, but it tasted great. So I think, so here are a couple, that dish is going to go down as one of the more controversial dishes, right? Because as Dan said while he was sort of in the holding tank, hey, that was intentional.
Yes.
And again, there was actually a great challenge that Buddha Low won last season where, hey, you want food to kind of feel or different. I mean, there's a reason they do kind of dehydrated elements. You want it to almost, hey, it feels like a raisin, but it's actually a protein. It's like, that's part of the game. I think tuna is one of those things, and one of the things that's and I think one of the judges characterized it as polarizing, is not everybody wants tuna to feel like grapefruit. I think for every one person who says, oh my God, that is so inventive, there's another person who, Kristen Kish being that person, who says, no, I'm sorry. Tuna should not have a mouthfeel like a section of grapefruit. And I think what's so ironic and tragic for Dan Jacobs is a guy who basically, hey, I'm going to cook my own thing. I think, try to do something molecular kind of in the kitchen with the tuna and might have paid for it, even though, again, I don't know. This is one of those cases where we'd have had to taste it. Either it would have been weird or would it not have been weird. But he was playing around. It was the old molecular gastronomy game, and he got bit by it. And it seemed like ironic that judges who often are very impressed or certainly support those risks in this case didn't. And it's hard to say. I mean, it sounded like half the table was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm cool, But yeah, it was, I think that's the dish, right? Because Tom, if that dish, like if they don't have an issue with that tuna tartare texture, truly what you said is correct, right? And there's not one faulty element across 4 dishes. Not one.
I couldn't find anything. It was flawless except for the tuna tartare. And is it that grotesque?
Do you think they had to build a case? Are you getting into Top Chef Illuminati here, Tom? Where is it a case where they sort of they reverse engineer a repulsion to the tuna tartare in an effort to give him a ding or a knock and therefore hand the title to Danny? I mean, is that what you were suggesting, Tom?
There was someone in the chat, and again, it's one of my favorite things we did this season was opening up a live chat for our subscribers. One of the folks in the chat had dinner at Buddha's restaurant or at one of his meals that he's been doing across the country. And Buddha said something to the effect of like, they edit it to make it closer than it really is. And we've heard that, being thrown about, is that the edits are really important here.
Right.
And the edit here, to me, seemed like Dan was going to win this running away. It's so weird to be so fired up about a competition that you're not eating the food. You're not participating in the food. You don't actually get to see the punches land because it's all about taste, right? And so it isn't a boxing match, right? And yet the whole point is that the judges are supposed to give us the answers. They are supposed to tell us how it tasted. And to me, Kevin, it really felt like they didn't have anything else to say negatively, any nitpicky thing about Dan's meal. And so maybe it really is to what you're saying. Maybe it really is about the ambition or the level of difficulty, because there wasn't a bad thing on that plate except for the tartare texture, which isn't even a taste thing. It's just a mouthfeel thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? There's a world one can imagine where there was a lot more tepid critique of Dan's dishes, where someone at the judges' table said, yeah, the grilled snapper was fine. I've had this dish 100 times this year, usually in hotel restaurants, right? Like you could imagine someone maybe saying that, right? I know that's completely unfair. Clearly, it was far more than that. But I'm saying you could imagine a world where if the edit is intended for maximum drama, which it is. I mean, God, we're all just shocked. I mean, this is exactly how I think the good people who produced this fine show want us to be the night of. We want us talking about this emotionally and with great conviction. But it is possible that we did not see the more, unvarnished, or obviously unvarnished, just more like, hey, Dan was fine. Like, again, I think where we're talking about ambition versus consistency, and it's a contrast in values. But I could see that, Tom. Is it possible we didn't get all the breadth of critiques of Dan's meal? I don't know.
We got a lot of critiques on Danny's. I know there was, hey, this needed salt. Everyone at the table said it needed salt. Did we have anything a tenth of the magnitude of that critique? That critique alone on one of Danny's dishes.
Just the texture. I do think the texture of the tuna.
Yeah.
That was it, though. But that was it, right? Like, that was literally it. There wasn't a unkind word about any other component. Not the oxtail ragu, not the pickles. They love the Brussels sprouts leaves. They love the grilled pineapple compote with the char in it. They like the salted phyllo crisp. They love the mousse. They love the basil with the yogurt mousse. They love the pumpkin, the raw the raw pumpkin was actually, that was a knock on Danny. I'm sorry, I'm getting my pumpkins mixed up.
That was a knock on Danny. I was just going to say, didn't Tom say, I don't get it, why the raw pumpkin? Again, and then when the oxtail dish was being judged, Tom goes, I think he could take this. Dan could take this. Meaning this dish alone was so good that he could have won the competition with one fucking dish. And yet he didn't win. And so I'm just sitting there being like, okay, they were under-seasoned all the way through, that they needed more salt. And then the raw pumpkin was very confusing, shouldn't have been on the dish. And usually Tom's critiques win the day. And it clearly didn't. And I'm open to the idea of Kristen having more weight in this discussion at the judges' table than maybe Padma did. She's been on the show. She's competed on Top Chef. She's won Top Chef. So I get it if there is kind of an unspoken weighting system that she just gets, you know what, a little bit more of that percentage if we're going to do a breakdown. But I'm still kind of going through it, Kevin, and I might seem emotional or over the top here, but I wish maybe the edit, if they had just given us a little bit more about why Danny's was such a home run, and maybe Dan wasn't reaching for the stars, right? Like, I wish we got a little bit more, because then it would be understandable if they were like, look, yeah, Dan, A or A- or A+ across the board. But in terms of ambition, or in terms of going for it, Danny really went for it on all his dishes, and that counts for something. Didn't feel like we got enough of that.
I'm more fascinated than outraged by the decision because of what it says, again, about what the judges value. I think we now know what they value, and I don't say that grudgingly. Like, I think there is a case for maximum ambition. right? And that's it. Do we want to go through the meal a little bit? I mean, also, we've said absolutely nothing about Savannah.
I know, but Kevin,
who had a very rough night. No, and I hear you. I don't want to bury the lead here. Do you want to go through the meal real quick, as we often do, and just kind of go course by course, and again, you can continue to register. I appreciate your indignation. I am with you in many respects.
I wanted to ask you a real quick question.
Please.
Do you like that?
Do I like what?
If that is a choice by Top Chef, that they are going for more of a ambition, less about how well, you cooked or executed. We really want to see someone really shoot for it and have more of a technical side to things. If that is the template of what Top Chef appraises going forward, and less about the competition aspect of like, did he cook a better dish or not? Do you like that direction?
I don't think it's the direction. I think it's where they've always been. We've just never had a situation where the technical chef in the finale, I don't want to say botch. I mean, Shota is an interesting example, right? Because Shota just kind of, in some ways, he was knocked for lack of ambition. He was the odd finalist who was the technical chef, decided to play it homespun,
yes,
and got dinged for it. So in some ways, this decision is consistent with that. Do I like it? I mean, I like that they want to reward creativity. I'm with you. Like, I think that, look, I think you should absolutely be graded on a curve. I am with you in the sense that I would have liked to have seen more flawless dishes by Danny in order to warrant the vote over Dan, who, by all accounts, unless you were one of the people, and there were quite a few who were repelled by that texture of the tuna tartare, I think Danny should have had maybe fewer errors to warrant squeaking out the victory.
Yeah.
So I'm with you in that respect. But do I like that general precept? Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. I do. I want this to be a high-end I want to see LeBron, right? Like I've always made that metaphor. Like you could have given me 100 years, I wouldn't have even come up with a concept like breadfruit and nori tuile. You know what I do quite frequently? Serve a lovely piece of fish with a lovely veg or starch and I do dashi now. Like I can make nothing. Look, I'm not going to suggest I can cook to Dan Jacobs' capabilities, but I can at least conceive of those dishes. And on my best night, I wouldn't get sent home in a 9-person field doing exactly that. A very loved piece. I did, his was grilled, pan-seared fish. Instead of, I do these lovely carrots that I sear and then I roast and I put the little witch feta on them. Like I can do that dish. Like I have never seen the kind of stuff that Danny does. And I do think this is a show about the imagination of the chef and the psyche of the chef and like coming up with ideas that aren't even conceivable to even a pretty ambitious home chef who spends, a lot of time with their nose in a cookbook. I don't like that. I do want. I don't want this ever to be top crowd pleaser. But I also think it's completely unfair to regard Dan Jacobs as a crowd pleaser. That guy is doing real food, and I thought it looked like he might have been robbed tonight. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to Danny, who I think is by far the most creative chef in this field. But I'm with you. Like, he was by far the most creative chef in the field, and he made some errors. And the question is, did those errors wipe out the creative gulf between him and Dan? And the judges say yes. Or no, you say yes, and the judges say no. And that's sort of where we're at.
Hello, listener. It's Producer Maze here to talk to you about Quince and their cookware. Cooler nights mean cozy meals at home, and Quince's cookware has made fall cooking so much more enjoyable. Their pieces deliver the quality and performance of luxury brands, but at a price that makes sense. And they look gorgeous on the stovetop, too. No matter what item you need to complete your kitchen, Quince has you covered. With 5-ply stainless steel pots and pans, nonstick skillets, chef-quality knives, and even ceramic bakeware, which is perfect for cozy casseroles or Sunday roasts. And when you look at these prices, you might think, how is Quince doing this? How do they deliver high-quality items similar to high-end brands that are half the price? Well, let me tell you, they partner directly with ethical top-tier factories to cut out the middlemen and pass the savings on to you. And it's not just cookware. I got myself some bath sheets. That's right. When you're a tall man, you have to use bath sheets, not bath towels from Quince. It's like drying off with the cloud. It's incredible. Upgrade your kitchen for cozy fall meals with premium cookware from Quince. Go to quince.com/dings for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dings, DINGS, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dings.
Listener, listen up. This is important, okay? I'm going to try to save you some money here. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. You may think like, oh, that's bad. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month. You heard that correctly. $15 per month. Ditch overpriced wireless and the jaw-dropping monthly bills. And of course, there are all these hidden fees and stuff, but at Mint Mobile, plans start at $15 per month. All the plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text. You're not doing like weekend and nighttime minutes or anything like that. And it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone. Don't have to get a new phone. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. I switched months ago. People have asked, did you actually switch? Yes, I actually switched months ago, and I don't know what to do with all this extra money. I've cheated the system here. I've rigged something. This is an Ocean's 11 situation where I'm stealing wireless from Mint. That's how good a deal it is. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/dings. That's DINGS. That's mintmobile.com/dings. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hello, listener. It's producer Mays here to talk to you about Kindred. Now, close your eyes like Owen Wilson during a job interview and imagine a way to travel that feels personal, comfortable, and connected without the price tags and the sterile feelings of hotels or short-term rentals. Now open your eyes and stop using your imagination because Kindred has made it very real. That's exactly what they do. Kindred is a members-only home swapping network. It's not a hotel. It's not a short-term rental. It's a smarter way to travel where each stay feels like home. Here's how it works. With Kindred, your home is your ticket. You earn credits by hosting fellow Kindred members, and then you use those credits to stay in over 220,000 homes in more than 100 cities worldwide. There are no hotel costs or rental fees, just the credits that you've earned. Every stay comes with white glove service, 24/7 trip support, and $100,000 in host protection. Make it easier for you to travel and enjoy yourself and not worry about details. I've used Kindred and I found an amazing home for a weekend getaway in an idyllic location with amazing views and great ambiance. It had everything I needed. And the best part was, it cost me $0. So apply now at livekindred.com and use code DINGS to join for free. Plus, you'll earn 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. That's right, that's 5 whole nights for free at livekindred, KINDRED.com, code DINGS, DINGS, livekindred.com, code DINGS.
And the irony is, I actually scored the first course for Savannah, who we haven't even talked about.
Yes, so did I.
So let's go. Let's talk about the 4-course menus.
Oh, that was such a great looking dish, wasn't that, Tom?
Yeah, it was great.
That's where you and I live, right there, right? A saltfish hush puppy with a sweet potato puree and a pickled mussel and a habanero honey glaze. That is where you and I both live. I love that dish. That was the dish I wanted. And I had it scored for her as well.
I actually had it scored initially for Dan. And then the more I heard about the tuna tartare, I was like, okay, I think this is actually going Savannah. And my ultimate decision was Savannah won that dish. A cornmeal fritter, the saltfish, sweet potato puree. It had the heat. It had the crunch. Tom really liked how it set up the rest of the meal for her. So all the way through, it was a flawless, really lovely dish. And I think that the fact that you did the hot honey glaze probably brightened things up and gave it a little bit of acid in a way that it needed, because I can see how a mussel and cornmeal fritter with sweet potato puree could feel a little heavy. But it was an awesome dish, and I would eat 1,000 of those. And it actually reminded me of the Pick and Pig place that I go to in Carthage, North Carolina, has jalapeno hush puppies, and it's so good. And so like it almost reminded me of that. And shouts to North Carolina. It was the winning dish. And so for Danny, the scallop habanero leche de tigre was under seasoned, needed more salt, and I had that as the third place dish.
I was like, hey, it depends on where someone falls on this texture issue. Like there's clearly people who thought it was actually quite clever and for whom, hey, Dan might have even finished first, just given the sheer creativity of the dish. And then I figure there are people who it was a deal breaker for. I mean, it did seem like the tigre de leche that Danny prepared was delicious. The scallop needed a couple grains of salt, but the actual sauce they were slurping up, right? You had that, it's usually, yes, tigre de leche is usually like a little clam or fish juice, little fish juice. It's a little lime. Usually you get like some garlic and ginger in there, and it's just, they loved and ate that up. So this was one of those where I had all three doing fairly well, but Savannah is a marginal favorite.
Yes.
And again, the breadfruit and nori tuile was a revelation. And look, that presentation was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It really felt special occasion-y. And I do think the special occasion-y of the finale dish, of the finale meal, works obviously in Danny's favor on all this stuff.
The rest of the way didn't go as well for Savannah.
No, it did not. It was a very bad night for Savannah in many respects.
And some of the decisions, it wasn't just about the result. I think it was a little bit of process that she's never done mofongo before. She had questions about how to do it, to execute. So there was that. But really, before we get to the third one, the second one, the decision to do a pasta for Kristen. And Dan Jacobs actually said this in his confessional, was like, really? You're going to do pasta for Kristen Kish, who's doing her first season as the host of Top Chef? You better nail that pasta. And she didn't, Kevin.
Yeah, and it was really tough. And she knew it then where she was in this sort of, what are those little finger games, like the Chinese finger thing, right? Like where if you pull one way, you're gonna, sort of force the resistance. And where she knew her pasta was underdone. It needed more cooking. But in the process of doing that, she would then overcook the lobster. You leave it as is, the lobster inside is gonna be fine, but the pasta will be. So they were on two different tracks. And it just was excruciating to watch because she put so much thought into it. I mean, God, who doesn't love like a really lovely, rich lobster annalati? I mean, that's just what you want to eat. The judges also kind of dinged her a little bit for the almonds were a little out of place. It reminded me a little bit of, she made this beautiful shawanmushi, but some of the judges found the mushrooms a little dissonant in that meal. But I just felt for her because it was like, because she knew exactly what was going on, right? It's like, God, if I continue to cook the pasta, I'm going to overcook the filling. If I don't cook, the filling will be fine, but the pasta will be undercooked. What do you do? And it's a tough call. I don't know that I do pasta in a strange kitchen. Man, I really felt for her there.
If I had Joe Sasto as my sous chef, maybe I'd do it. I'm like, hey, make the best pasta you've ever made right here.
Right. That's actually a good point.
And Michelle was like, pasta? I got to make pasta. And there was a little bit of
She won on week one for that, though. She won the pasta competition in week one on that pasta she did.
She did.
But you're right. It's a tough call to do the pasta. Again, I'm with you. You have a pasta specialist as your sous, you do it. But yeah, that's a tough one.
I was trying to figure out in my head, which is the more killer line from Kristen Kish? Quote, what was the egg to flour ratio? Or was it, do you make a lot of pasta? And the answer I came up with is yes.
Those are completely incriminating and torturous for totally different reasons, right?
I feel so bad for her.
One sort of impugns your technical expertise and one just kind of impugns your entire being, right? Like, do you cook a lot of pasta?
Just heartbreaking.
Hey, Tom, do you write a lot of features?
Yeah. Hey, is this your first time writing?
Yes. I mean,
it was so hard to watch. Yes. But there are the grilled snapper from Dan
was a hit.
It was a hit. He was struggling. One thing I'll note, and I know I'm belaboring the point here that I thought Dan did an excellent job, but did you get the sense they didn't break a sweat? Dan and Amanda were so calm and everything was so like Dan was just about doing dances and jigs back there. He was so it was super fun. And it didn't seem like he was hurrying or rushed or anything. And maybe that speaks to the fact that it wasn't inventive, that he was able to execute with time on the clock and feel like he could kick back and have a beer. It really seemed like he was the one who had extra time here. And hey, that pumpkin isn't really doing great. The texture isn't great. Let's just redo it. And the Amanda was like, cool, let's do that. And it was just like a walk in the park for them.
I made the case for Amanda as sous chef last week, and that she was kind of a master of prep, and I think it proved well. There might be something to what you're saying, given, what they were doing, but it's also they just had a good vibe, and it made a lot of sense. They're familiar with each other. There's a Chicago connection there, I think, isn't there? I could have that wrong. But again, I think if you wanted to knock Dan's dish and try to get into the anatomy of maybe how was he robbed, it was that it was an absolutely flawless dish that people have seen before in many incarnations. Danny goes with smoked mussels with this charred cabbage, a plantain chip that had he just disclosed to everybody, hey, kind of pull it out and start eating the stuff. The Fiend's Herbs puree, which he actually did last week as well. And a smoked mussel mayo that Emerald was a little nervous on his behalf about, but apparently kind of nailed it within the framework of the dish. A couple of the judges felt like there was not sufficient instruction on how to eat the dish, but again, apparently they liked it more than the edit might have suggested because it didn't cost them.
Yeah, didn't cost them. Tom was like, it was weird, but I liked it somehow. And so it was surprising in that sense.
Tom, let me ask you, is it possible that we want to look at where your scorecard departed from the judges? Is it this dish? Is the smoked mussel and charred cabbage, which we kind of knocked or felt like was knocked because it wasn't appropriately introduced in terms of how to eat it. Actually, all those hoity-toity judges are sitting there saying, oh, yeah, I never seen this before. Oh, that charred cabbage. And it was just, and that mussel mayo. I mean, is it possible that in the delta between your scorecard and theirs, this is the dish?
Mays brings up a good question. Is this gymnastics, ice skating, or diving? Because I think that's really what you're getting at here.
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because there is a level of difficulty that I think what Danny's doing, it's almost they're getting scored based on the level of difficulty too. And so I think it is what diving, maybe all three have.
Diving has a lot of,
of like, you didn't splash, but also you didn't try to do 8 flips like that lady just tried. So maybe Dan's didn't have a splash when he dove into the pool, to torture this metaphor, but it wasn't as crazy or technically impressive what he was doing in the air before he landed in the pool. So that to me might be it, is like, yeah, Dan did the grilled snapper and the pumpkin was great and the dashi broth was fantastic, flavorful, bright, but it's kind of easy, on the easy side. And so I scored it that Dan won that round.
As did I.
But if you're telling me that the level of difficulty from the chef's perspective is like, that's a 200 level course, not a 300 level course, graduate level course, what he did, I get behind that. But I had scored, Dan won it. Danny came in second, and Savannah with the dry, brittle pasta came in third.
Oh, poor Savannah on that. Just watching it. And it was one of those where it wasn't, the chefs take a bite and you get the first inkling. It was like you saw it happening in the kitchen, and that's really rough. I feel for her so much. Third course. I mean, this is where, Tom Haberstroh, you have your best case. And you said it earlier in the show that this was the best. This seemed to be the favorite dish of the night. Maybe that's correct me or not, but I that was the impression certainly the show gave off. His oxtail ragu in dumplings with tomato, pickles, and these fried Brussels leaves, kind of served together as kind of a unified, composed, just dish, just like as rustic and homey as it comes on a Top Chef finale. But boy, did they just love it.
I thought it might be too decadent, but they seem to love it. And Tom came away saying that might have been the winner right there. That's how I interpreted his comment of he might have just taken it right there. Maybe that's the thing. It was just too much, too heavy. Oxtail can be that decadent, but they seem to love it. And the pickles, look, this guy is presenting food in a Caribbean island, and he is trying to attempt some Caribbean food here, and he nailed it. Oxtail with pickles. I would not have picked Dan to do that, but he did, and it was awesome. So I scored him winning this one, and the spiny lobster with the salsa matcha and the cream sauce, his wife's dish, Danny's wife's dish that she served him the first time she cooked for him. There's a lot of story there and a lot of narrative, and it also really impressed the judges. But the lobster wasn't evenly cooked, and he served it medium to rare. I don't know about a rare lobster, but he didn't cook the protein great. And Manny, his sous chef, didn't steam the lobsters correctly, whether that was the actual electrical issue or a facility issue rather than a cook issue. I don't know, but it seemed like throughout the day, Danny had trouble with Manny in ways that we didn't see with the other sous chefs, whether it was the melon balls that Manny had accidentally used all the melon for the other dish.
I have a theory that he actually just ate them.
You say, oh, I'm sorry. They're in the bottom of my belly right now. And then when he's like, hey, Manny, we need to go a little 110% faster on this one. And he tried to rationalize it. When I tell someone that in the kitchen, I'm really telling myself that I need to quicken up. Nah, man, you were telling that to Manny because he was being slow. He was dragging his ass. And so I thought this was going to cost him, is that the lobster was not cooked. Danny recognized it, like the executive chef, the restaurateur that he aspires to be. He recognized it in the kitchen that wasn't right, and he fixed it by boiling the lobster. And I just thought, man, we're getting boiled lobster in a Top Chef finale. This isn't going to go well. It wasn't evenly cooked throughout the judges' table. Didn't seem to matter. They liked the dish. I scored this one for Dan.
Yeah, I scored it for Dan. I don't think that's controversial. The sauce work obviously just really wowed Kristen and a couple of the other chefs. Savannah had a seared grouper with epi sauce, kind of a epi spice, a garlicky green spice, but really got tripped up on the mofongo. And one of the problems with doing a finale and if you've ever traveled to the Caribbean or coastal Mexico and you go to kind of the big supermarket, it ain't the Whole Foods. It certainly ain't the kind of places they shopped in Italy and for the finales and various other places like that. And they ended up getting some very stiff plantains. And I don't know what you do there other than you could argue, hey, it's really important that when you're at that market and you feel that, part of being a great chef is being able to know how to source or at least identifying good produce from bad produce. But it just didn't give them what they needed for the mofongo. I don't know if usually there's usually a pork skin element in mofongo, but it really just kind of repelled the judges. They just found the mofongo. That was pretty much the nail in Savannah's coffin. I mean, the pasta was a fail, but hey, there might have been enough errors elsewhere among the other chefs. If she still maybe had a chance if she nailed the other three, because the other three courses and just really soared. But the mofongo kind of did her in. That was sort of the nail in the coffin for the night, unfortunately.
It was a mofongo, as Tom said at the episode.
Right.
I had to yelp in my office watching this. Oh my God, he really said it. Mofongo, yeah, it didn't work. And Kristen, I think she had a particularly searing critique of it that wasn't mofongo. And when it's half of your dish, come on. So that was tough for Savannah again. But I think she redeemed herself quite a bit with the hummingbird cake. And although it wasn't maybe the winner in that round, it was really nice to see her get back on her feet. I
had the dessert sort of close to even, with Danny getting kind of first, not a distant first, on just the strength of the concepts, the technical prowess with the candied seaweed, just bringing together an avocado puree with the yogurt, with the candied seaweed, a lemon relish, bouncing back beautifully. Even the suggestion that, the best thing that ever happened to that dish was the melon balls disappearing because the lemon relish added kind of a better hint of acid to the dish.
Yeah, good point.
But the melenga parago con leche, which is it's similar to what you call shaved ice, but it's like a creamed shaved ice. And it's a dish that evoked his childhood and time with his grandfather in a place that is so distinct, Brooklyn summers, right? And he brought it to the thing. And it really, I think you could argue that is, because sometimes the knock, and I said it earlier, where Danny's kind of a guy who throughout the season, when asked to sort of perform the narrative task of the challenge, would sort of punt and say, hey, my food's going to clear and I'll reverse engineer a story.
100%.
In this one, he didn't, right? Like in this one, he didn't. And I wonder to some extent, if you're looking for where did he pick up an edge, that, hey, for the guy who was the technical chef, whereas, Dan's just cooking from the heart. Well, no. There was a lot of heart here in Danny's dessert. And you could argue that it wasn't just not only the best dessert, again, not by a huge margin, because the other two desserts were great. Dan's yoga mousse with the charred pineapple compote and the salted flaky crisp was a hit. But that it was Danny wetting the narrative with the technical creativity that won him here with that melon flavored paragua con leche. That was the winner there.
I actually, the more that you talked about it, the more I feel like this won Top Chef for him. This single dish and the story combined won him Top Chef. I thought erroneously that was going to be the oxtail dish. That was going to be the winner dish. But maybe the sequencing matters here. I'm not supposing or accusing
interesting
that the judges were succumbing to a little bit of recency bias, that the final dish that they got from Danny was this outstanding dish and an outstanding narrative, and it all worked together in surprising ways with a candied seaweed. Come on, candied seaweed. How cool is that?
Brilliant.
If this is his first dish, maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe it doesn't land as well. It's just a great, to steal that metaphor again, the gymnastics, he stuck the landing on this one in ways that, Dan had a really nice yogurt mousse with a pineapple compote, and it was his favorite dish that he said that he made. Really, the most excited that he had been about any of the 4 dishes was that dessert. But you know what? Didn't have the same story, and it didn't have the evoking of the memories of a childhood with your grandpa. And I think that really it counts for something. And I'm actually happy that it does count for something, because we want narrative in this show. We want that to matter. And you know what? Like, thinking about it now, Danny said it as much at the very end of the episode, Kevin. He says he has such high expectations for himself. And when they asked him what it meant to win Top Chef, he lost it. The emotions overcame him in a way we have not seen yet on this season. That this isn't a robot, right? Danny spoke from the heart on this last dish, and I think you saw that when he answered the question, that he really let himself go and really proved to himself that, he's not just his resume, he's not just where he came from, he's all of it. And maybe this 4th dish was the winning dish.
And I know there's been a drumbeat that this has been a weaker season in terms of the cook, and we've explored possible reasons why that is, and maybe we've been spoiled by All Stars and perhaps some of the structures of the challenge. I mean, Danny's been cooking his ass off for a very long time. I mean, the scallop jalfrezi, he won with a sofrito boil. Was the one person at the boil who brined the fish and did so beautifully and won that going away. I mean, on the table canvas, Laura stole the show with her chewy ice cream, but like the paella with black rice with all those purees on the border, it was gorgeous. I mean, the zucchini puree and the creme fraiche and the black garlic. I mean, the guy has been just, cooking his ass off. He won the cranberry quickfire with his cranberry poached sea bass. I mean, I'm just going up and down his roster of dishes here this season, and the guy is just, has God, I'm looking at his quickfire. He won with the flambe, the charcoal. I mean, like, he just has been cooking his ass off. A play on agua chile, he won again. I mean, here it is. Like, time and time again, the guy has been just cooking really well. And I know that in the aggregate, there is a sense that, hey, maybe the field was a little weaker this year relative to recent years. Bottom line is, this guy has just been cooking damn good food for a damn long while. And though we can take issue, and I share your concerns about the verdict tonight, the guy has assembled some great cooking this season and has done so at a high degree of difficulty, has done so very coolly with time to spare in the kitchen often. I mean, this is the real deal. And I think that I don't want to omit that from our analysis. The headline here is, Dan Jacobs was robbed, and he might very well have been, depending on what your criteria are. However, Danny Garcia has been, from start to finish, probably the best chef in the competition, and has done some incredibly inventive stuff. And I just want to, I want to note that.
Well said. And Danny, if you're listening, I picked you very high for a reason. You've been the best chef in the competition this year.
And then you traded him for a reason.
I was trying to sell high because he was.
You thought he was done. You thought he was washed.
Yeah, I thought he was washed up.
And you traded him.
Nope. He kicked ass. Look, the guy has 5 Elimination Challenge wins. No one else had more than 2. Okay? That's a winner. That's a Top Chef winner. I mean, he had the best performance, start to finish, of anybody. Of course, I think we both would have liked to have seen Rosica out there, Michelle out there. I think you even posed it in the chat. Does Rosica win this season if she was in the finale?
I think you give Rosica 7.5 hours to prepare this meal, 5 and then 2.5. I got to tell you, I think she would have surprised. I think it could have gone very well with Rosica. I want to see, I think one way, I think it's useful to bring, the only way you can become a expert at being a Top Chef contestant is to do it more than once, right? Like you learn the first time. And I think we saw that with Sarah and others who've had return. I'd love to see the field next season include a few returnees, and particularly of the profile of Rosica, where, hey, this is a person who might have gotten eliminated a little earlier than anticipated, because a bad day in the kitchen, but has a high ceiling of potential. Put her back. She knows the rules of the game now. She knows how it works. Like, I love to see her back in a field. If not season 22, an upcoming season, I think that'd be very cool.
Gregory, Nini, and Rosica. Let's bring them back, people. And I hope Gregory has a back specialist that can help him get through the season, because that was the only thing holding him back from winning that one. Look, the hummingbird cake, I actually have never had hummingbird cake. I never heard of hummingbird cake, but it's a Jamaican pineapple banana cake that sounds amazing, and the judges loved it. I kind of felt like one of the judges calling it a kind-hearted dish, and that's kind of, she's cooking kind-hearted food, was a little bit of a backhanded compliment. I don't know if you read it the same way.
That was Justin Pichitrungsi, and I never can pronounce his name right. What I can pronounce correct is Anna Jack Thai out in the Valley here in Los Angeles won the James Beard Award, best restaurant overall, I think in the West. It is now regarded as one of the 2 or 3 best restaurants in this city. And I've been there a couple times, and it's worth a visit. They do a beautiful whole crispy Thai fish that is just fantastic, among many other classics. But I enjoyed his contributions. It was nice to see Brisha Lopez, because Guelaguetza in Los Angeles sort of put Oaxacan food on the map in LA many, many years ago. And I still buy their mole paste to kind of make and use all the time. Her dad, Fernando, started it. And I used to go to this back when it was this little divey place on 8th Street in Koreatown. And it was great. Now it's moved to a much bigger place, but it was good to see. I like the lineup there. I like the final judges. Obviously, Emerald was there with his branded chef's jacket, haunting the kitchen. It was very cool. The chefs were very happy to see that. But yeah, it was a kind-hearted. You thought that was a little condescending, huh? Did you?
I don't know. It just kind of felt like a little pat on the head.
A little kind-hearted dish for a kind-hearted chef. Yeah, it was a little pat on the head, was it?
Yeah, it kind of felt that way. But hey, Savannah, you had a great season, a great story arc. You definitely legitimize yourself in this competition in ways that you didn't feel like you were taking a chance on yourself joining this competition, and you served it well. I can't wait to eat your food. You represented North Carolina well. And look, LeBron James has lost many NBA finals, and he's still considered one of the GOATs. Ted Williams was out 60% of the time, and he's still one of the best hitters. So,
and now he's frozen and might come back to life one day. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Shouts to Savannah. Dan, man, hearing him talk to Emerald, you mentioned Emerald, and saying, hey, man, you came into that restaurant in 1999 when I was cooking as a line cook or whatever he said. And I was like, yo, Dan has been doing this since 1999.
I know. Give one up for the Gen X contestant. That's why I was rooting for him.
Yeah. It would have been so cool to see him for a variety of reasons to win Top Chef. Danny is a monster, gangster cook, as he said in the very first episode, I believe. His J's are clean. His food looks amazing and just as clean. And clearly, a worthy Top Chef, even though I felt like Dan had maybe scored a little bit better in my scoring system here in the scorecard. Danny, an awesome and worthy Top Chef. I'm sorry for trading you. It was a terrible mistake. I felt like maybe I was Milwaukee trading Drew Holiday via the Portland Trailblazers to Boston and Boston winning the title. That's how I feel right now. We have an interview with the 3 finalist chefs. We had a little bit of technical difficulty with audio with Danny. Just a heads up on that. 2 things I want to say. 1, thanks to all our subscribers on Substack. An amazing experience this year. We had a lot of fun with y'all and writing on the Substack. We really, really appreciate your support. I know it's something new this year that we were trying, but we really love the community that we're trying to build here at Pack Your Knives. Another thing is, we kind of teased it in the chat. Kevin and I have decided that we are going to take a swing at recapping The Bear season 3 this year, which you can find on Hulu and FX. So be prepared for the lights not to go out here at Pack Your Knives. We are going to be doing episode recaps of The Bear, which Kevin and I off air, we love that show. And we can't wait to review that for you guys coming up here. And also, Kevin, congratulations. You won our fantasy season, by the way. So shouts to your chef's table. We had a little different twist this year.
Yes.
You have the floor. Any closing thoughts you have before we kick it over to our finalists here in our interview?
No, I mean, it still continues to set the standards for cooking reality shows and competition shows. And it's always a pleasure. It was a really great chance to hear from the chefs, the finalists. We might have some more good Top Chef season 21 and beyond interviews coming up during the off season, but it was really a pleasure to get a chance to speak to these folks. Let's go to that interview.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. 1 order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection and a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This is Pack Your Knives. Tom Haberstroh, we have 3 very special guests with us today.
We sure do, Kevin. This is our annual finalists. I can't even say
They're called finalists.
Finalists.
Yes.
Finalists sounded right, Kevin, but obviously I haven't gotten much sleep. The NBA Finals was on Monday night and it's over. But we have much more important finale to talk about here is the Top Chef finale with our finalists, Savannah Miller, the pride of Moore County. I was just in Pinehurst, North Carolina over the weekend for the U.S. Open. It is great to have you on the show. I just acquired you in a trade. We also have Danny Garcia, who has the cleanest J's on TV. Danny, thanks so much for joining us. And of course, Dan, who has the most beautiful blue glasses, and also someone who is very near and dear to my heart, although I haven't met you, Dan. My mother had ALS, and so I am very much a big fan of you and your initiative with Kennedy's disease and the advocacy that you're doing, and also just a big fan of your food. It looks amazing, Kevin, doesn't it?
I love this finale. I love the contrasting and complementary styles of this field. And we have a million questions. We won't get to all of them. But we're so happy to have you here. When you were in the finale, like the regular season is over, you go home. When does like the genesis of your dishes, like, do you train between the finale and getting on that plane for that cruise ship? Like, Samantha, is your entire wall scrawled with dry erase of like possible dishes you do? Or is it just like, hey, I'm going to get there and we're going to wing it?
I trained from start to finish. I mean, I put the ground running and start training. Recipe testing and getting things dialed in as best as I could. And hitting Caribbean markets and hitting like all the stores in Little Haiti and in Brooklyn to just like understand different ingredients. I mean, it was several tastings and just dialing everything into the gram.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very similarly like it. I really, I have a whole new appreciation for Scotch bonnets after this, just like playing around with Caribbean ingredients. As soon as we got back, it's tough though, because I mean, I have 2 restaurants. So I luckily, like, the team wasn't looking at me to kind of like do prep, but also like I was like, I'll just observe. I won't really get involved. And then, that lasted like 30 minutes. And then I was like plating food and like running food out to tables and talking to people. And it was just what a weird, cool experience.
Yeah, I feel like, the Warmere definitely that started in our dining room at home prior to even leaving for Wisconsin. So like during the time off was like full dining room, all the walls are covered in paper and just like writing and studying and trying to, think about that final meal, but also like training and preparing to deal with the unexpected as well, which is like a totally different type of training, I would say.
Yeah, Savannah, did you guys? I knew you were like taking notes on that like whiteboard or on the mirror, Savannah. But did you guys also keep score? Like, were you tracking who was winning each quickfire and who was winning the elimination in the standings at all? Or were you taking that many notes?
I wasn't like writing those down. I feel like when we first started, I tried to keep a log like in the back of our Moleskine books, and some of that was. Okay, like, if Danny's cooking a carrot, I'm not going to cook a carrot today. Things like that. But more so, I think it just kind of trailed off because it just started becoming more of like a competition with yourself. And it's like, these guys are all great and we could all win or lose any day. So, I started with that and I kind of fell off on it. But
now that I have you, Savannah, how's your hand? Like, walk me through that whole process of getting the initial stabbing and then having to leave the competition for a little bit to go tend to your wound. And how does it look now?
Oh, she is totally fine. The hand is great. I think for me, that was way more of a mental, just trying to like get through that day. And, everyone knows what like adrenaline feels like when you're in that moment. The hand is not really that bad. I just don't do well with blood. So just trying to stay focused on what was happening in front of me. And ultimately, like, it was the hospital will be there as soon as we're done serving. I definitely knew I was not going to walk away and leave my fate up to that, like potential disqualification or whatever. So, everything is good now, but that day was definitely rough, but it feels good to be on the other side of it.
Danny, kind of an open-ended question here, but like you're a guy for whom precision is just sort of a cardinal principle in the kitchen. What is the difference between cooking week after week in this Top Chef kitchen with these sort of strange commands and prompts and like it's 100 degrees and the variables are all shifting all the time versus in your kitchen, in your restaurant? Like, what is the hardest thing about just the cooking itself when you're on the damn show?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there, right? It's like the variables. You can't control the variables. You don't have the opportunity to say, oh, it's hot in here, I'm going to turn the air conditioner on a little higher, or I don't like maybe this cut of meat that I'm using and I'm gonna use something else. It's like you've got to do what you're being told.
What was your biggest oh shit moment of the season that we might not have even seen on camera?
That you didn't see on camera was probably the second to last episode with my moose.
Yeah.
The judges said it, that they were like, they didn't like it. It wasn't like the moose. It wasn't moose consistency. And, Tom even called and he said it, I think, in the episode where it aired. And he was like, yeah, something went wrong here. And my moose didn't go in the oven at the right time. There was an issue with it cooking and it didn't souffle the way it was supposed to. I had cooked that same moose on the season before and even earlier that day when we had done the quick fire or the day before, and it just didn't go right. And so, it's like this oh shit moment of like, okay, well, how do I pivot? It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be what I wanted it to be, but I need to pivot.
Yeah. So Dan, we watched a little bit of the finale. We haven't seen the whole thing. Bravo has kept the cliffhanger for us. So we don't know who wins or anything, Savannah or Danny or Dan. But I did catch that little bit that you had with Kristen, where Kristen was like, you were on this show, like you auditioned 11 times. And Danny, you said, I just kind of worked out that I was on the show, pretty quickly getting on. It wasn't an 11 audition ordeal or anything like that. But Dan, As someone who has witnessed the disease of ALS front and center, I understand like how difficult it might be to commit to something like this while dealing with the obstacles that the disease presents, like Kennedy's. So how many times had you put your name in or auditioned after your diagnosis, and how much did that factor into your decision to ultimately come onto the show?
It's a weird journey. So like, I mean, early on, like I had tried out, like I had sent my name in. And then I'd say, you know, probably the last like 6 or 7, 8 times they had reached out to me to try out. And so I got diagnosed in 2016. I really wanted to do it. I got really close in the Colorado season to being on the show, you know, and it was kind of a process. And they kept telling me, you know, hey, let's reconnect next year. Let's reconnect next year. Kept getting pushed. And then I think this was going to be the last one. Like me and my wife had kind of talked about it. Me and Kate had, you know, sat down and we were like, you know, I think this is going to be the last, you know, try. And Kate really wanted me to do it because she knew that I would, you know, kind of always kind of question whether or not I could do it if I didn't. You know, it was kind of kismet. I found out that it was going to be in Wisconsin. They announced it was going to be in Wisconsin before I found out I was going to be on the show. And so once I found that out, I was like, maybe just this is the time. And I mean, it's difficult. Like it's, you know, having, you know, the physical limitations really got to kind of sharpen, you know, the brain to kind of outthink everybody a little bit, you know, really utilize, you know, your movements to their, you know, utmost potential. So you don't have to keep, you know, running around. I mean, you see everybody run up to the table to grab something. I think it's hilarious. You see me walk through a table to find my table. Like I just wanted to get to a table that I felt comfortable working on. I always wanted to work on the side of the pantry as opposed to the side of the ovens because it was just such a long run to get stuff and come back.
There's this thing that happens in Hollywood with like, you know, a director, writer, actor, like the movie does well and like they have heat for a particular moment. And what that basically means is, hey, to the extent that you have aspirations or projects you want to do, you know, in the context of a chef, restaurants you want to open, like there is this window following this very prestigious, being featured on this prestigious cooking reality show where like you might have opportunities that, you know, for a window of time that you might not otherwise have. Like, so how are you approaching the next 6 to 9 months? Like, given that you have this, I mean, presumably it's why you go on the show. It's not just a great competition, but it produces opportunities you might not otherwise have. So how are each of y'all approaching just the next 6 to 9 months with regard to those aspirations and ambitions and the to-do list?
You know, for me, I think life today is completely different than my life, you know, this time last year. I am hoping to be yes to like as many things as I can and, you know, really live up the next few months. But, you know, I also think it's important to like make decisions based off of things that are concrete and have a good foundation under them. So I'm also like, you know, a little weary of anybody coming out of the woodworks immediately, if that makes sense. Like, you know, I kind of want to take this time slow and yeah, just like live it up and enjoy it. But also the long term is, you know, I just want to cook in my own restaurant and be happy and get to talk to people who like the food. So I feel like just keeping a good head on your shoulders is important.
I couldn't agree more. You know, it's such a weird, wild ride. And people do come out of the woodworks. You know, it is definitely one of those things. I've really been enjoying just, you know, being in the restaurants, meeting people, talking to people. You know, people are real excited. And so, you know, I'm just trying to match their excitement. And I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, like, what do you want to do? You know, what do you want to be when you grow up? I really enjoyed doing the television part of it. I really did. I thought it was real interesting and fascinating. And, you know, I would ask a lot of questions, you know, after we got done filming. I used to joke around with the producers that I should get an associate producer credit on this episode or that episode. I liked it. It was really fun. And, you know, I look forward to whatever opportunities come about. I'm just trying to take one day at a time and just kind of have fun with it.
Hey, Savannah, question for you. What did you think of Wisconsin?
Oh my God, I loved it. I was just saying this to somebody else. I feel like, you know, I didn't have any negative or positive thoughts about Wisconsin. I just hadn't really thought about it much in my life. But I would really compare it to North Carolina. Like, I think that it's very easy to gloss over some states as far as like people having big culinary, you know, North Carolina, I don't think is the first thing that people think of when they think of really great destinations for food. And it's definitely kind of how I felt, or people asking me like, oh, you're going to Wisconsin. Huh, exciting, right? But like, I genuinely, walking away from that experience, I felt so close to home because it has so much stuff, like the agriculture, obviously the dairy, but like the Dane County Farmers Market was so incredible to see. And it just made me feel like I was at home. So I love it. I think I can't wait to go back. I'll be there in October cooking with Dan. So I'm stoked.
Oh, that's awesome.
Danny, I'll go back to a previous question because I know, you mentioned in the finale that you are in the process of opening a place. And it was one of the things I was talking about when you were off air was sort of, hey, look, I mean, this show is an enormous profile and it does give what they call in Hollywood, a chef heat, right? You have a window of opportunity to do stuff that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to do. In your case, it sounds like you're opening a joint. Like, what is what are the next 6 months to a year for you right now?
The next 6 months to a year, they're going to be interesting. It's going to be a road. So James Jamal, my partner, my boss, my friend, my mentor, we just lost him this past weekend. And so we're navigating that. We're navigating what our restaurant group looks like without him. And how do we continue that? How do we keep building his legacy? How do we keep pushing forward?
Hey, this is your producer, Anthony Mays here. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties with Chef Danny Garcia's recording. Obviously, he's in the middle of a very somber, serious answer right here. So I'm sorry to cut it short, but his audio is going in and out. Once again, my apologies, and back to the show.
I wanted to know strategy on picking your finale kind of counterpart. So we got to see that where you guys have the surprise of getting, Amanda and Manny and Laura and Michelle back, et cetera, back onto the squad. I'm wondering from your perspective, Dan, what was your thought on, picking your sous chef there of Amanda? Because I think Kevin and we were like, I think Amanda has some real chops here when it comes to, being the number 2 in the kitchen. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone selected her. And sure enough, you snagged her right away.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, Amanda's a beast. Like she's a badass cook. I love cooking with her. She did a pop up with us right when we opened up our new restaurant. We moved our restaurant Estreb.
Oh.
She did a dinner with us, a collab dinner, and I mean, she's a phenomenal cook. She really is. But I think more than anything else, I think we all cooked real tight, and they mentioned that in that penultimate episode where it was like we were all kind of real tense. And I think what we needed to do was to have a good time, get back to that. And I think we all picked people that we were like just comfortable being with and wanted to hang out with, and I think that was our mood more than anything else.
Yeah. What happened on the penultimate episode, guys? Like, what happened? Because I felt like you guys all felt like, oh, maybe we're pressing or we were cooking. I think someone would say you were cooking scared. Did you guys feel that in the kitchen?
No doubt.
Really?
Very tight. Yeah.
I think it's that pressure of wanting to get to that next level. Like you're so close. You're like, I just don't want to make any mistakes. But in that mindset, you make mistakes. Like it's that mindset of being careful and being tentative that makes you like it almost creates a mistake. It's like it was hard to explain. It was just I don't think we cooked our best. I don't think any of us could be like, man, we killed it, because none of us did.
It was the curacao. It was the drink. I'm convinced. Too many of those blue drinks.
It's also going to be hard to source from like one thing about an island like Curacao or Aruba is it's different than going to the Whole Foods. It's different than your supplier showing up at your back door of your restaurant. Like I've got to imagine, like it's really difficult what you buy and what is on that counter when you start prep is like going to determine so much of the quality of your dish. I got to imagine it's really tough in that environment just to get the stuff you want the way you want it, the stuff you're accustomed to getting. Like it's got to be really hard, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're at the mercy of what's on the boat. If we're moving and they run out of something, there's no grocery store to run out to. There's nothing, but it also, that kind of also is a little bit about what makes it fun. So I think we all had moments in our finale menus where, we had to pivot out of ideas that we had, out of necessity or somebody cooking your ingredient instead of cleaning it, which was fun. But it was it's those things. You gotta adapt, you gotta conquer.
It's funny. One of the kind of eternal questions of this show. And I remember Tom and I have had this conversation with several guests. It's just that, hey, there might be one of the 5 best chefs in the world might be the worst Top Chef contestant of all times. And we always tell people, hey, just because don't assume that because someone craps out in the early rounds of Top Chef, they're not a great chef. And by the way, like it might be that there are certain people who just have the personal characteristics to just kill it in an elimination challenge. In the woods, blindfolded, it's 100 degrees. You can only cook with these one cheese or whatever. It does take a very, like, what are the characteristics that are required to really excel at this show, apart from, hey, I can cook my ass off? Because there clearly is just a different set of skills and brain characteristics that kind of govern your ability to really work on this show.
Yeah, I think Dan said it really well one time. Like, his actual title nowadays is just problem solver versus chef. And I really relate to that, Dan. So like, I think being able to be someone who can think on their toes and pivot, and like the mental fortitude is so much of it, where like you're going to get feedback sometimes that hurts. Like, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And like, you have to really be able to take that and move on to the next challenge and not let anything hold you back. And just also, the fact that you're not really with your support system and you're having to deal with all these crazy life experiences with very limited communication back home. I think, people who can strive under those circumstances and really like find their footing are going to excel.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like, you got to be mentally strong. You have to be strong in your relationships outside. I mean, we have multiple businesses. So my partner, Dan, had to hold that down. Me and my wife have been together. We just celebrated our 16th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've been together a long, long time. And that was the longest periods of time I've ever gone without having a conversation with her. Like, just the simple stuff of like, she'd be like, man, she would say, I just want to text you and ask you where that thing is, or, what kind of pasta do you want to get today? Or something, it's just those like weird, like little like relationship things that you just can't do because I'm on this show. But that's the toughest part. So as long as you're mentally strong, and then you have to be quick on your feet, at least thought wise, like, they're going to give you these, and it's all in real time. Like, I mean, they're going to give you an idea. They're going to be like, all right, we're going to want you got to showcase cranberries in a new and exciting way. And you have to like, you basically have about 15 minutes of rules, and then you have to start cooking. So in those 15 minutes, you're trying to pay attention to the rules, but you're not. And then you're thinking about like, what I'm going to do with this dish. And then you have to execute it in a way that hopefully that you can win like $10,000. So
yeah,
stuff.
I was just wondering, as you're talking there, Dan, when you were discussing, how you were so close to home, but yet so far away from your wife and your support.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, did you feel like at certain times it was a disadvantage to be at home? All the chefs who were coming in from town. Do you feel like they were a tough grader?
So it was, I mean, we all talked about it. Like, I think we all had different hard times with, that aspect of the competition. I think being present but not being able to participate in my life was very difficult. I think that was, I can't speak to anybody else's experience, just my own. And that was very difficult. Like, and there were moments that hit harder than others. I think when we drove back from Madison, it hit me like super hard, and I had a real hard time. And it showed. I mean, the baseball, I mean, I sucked. Like it was not a good cook. It was a bad cook. It was a bad day. It was a couple bad days in a row, and it was just kind of like I was homesick, and I had to pull myself out of it.
Savannah, did you feel that at all? Were you like, oh, of course he knows that chef. This is going to be an easy shoe-in for Dan. Or were you like, man, I could not be in Southern Pines or in Moore County competing if I couldn't talk to my people?
Oh, man. Like, I mean, Dan, I have so much respect for, just because of everything that he has to deal with physically. So, like for him to see people he knows and stuff, it's never like, man, like, what the hell? It was mostly like, I think we all would have appreciated having like some camaraderie with like the judges and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, I don't really think that makes a big difference in the food. I think it shows how much everyone loves Dan, which is great because we do too. But I think, if I was the hometown chef, I can't even imagine the type of pressure that would put on. And also just like the sheer amount of privacy that you have to have during this season of like not really letting people know what you're doing. Like, that was probably a huge headache because everyone recognizes Dan. So
It's true.
definitely not jealous, but I understand why everyone wants to say hi because he's the best.
Yeah, it was funny. The producers were like, we stopped saying hello to people, and I was like, what do you want me to do, man? I live here. It's not that big of a city.
No, it was actually funny. I was at the fish boil. I got a chance to go, and I actually briefly met you, Dan, before again, I'd seen you were just a guy behind a thing, but I was with CJ Krawcheck, who I know you know, who's a good friend of mine. And it was interesting, like the number of people in that just, because basically they draw, I mean, who are the civilians who end up at a fish boil in Milwaukee? A bunch of people who are vaguely 1 degree removed from the food community, right? And it was hilarious that like here was this food fair essentially on this beach on a beautiful day, and it seemed like a good third of the people wanted to yap with you, and CJ included, right? And it was like, oh, home field advantage, like it's real.
Oh man, it was funny. Anytime I saw somebody like at Fish Boil or at the Cheese Fest, like all I wanted to do was like reach around and hug them. I literally was like, oh my God, like tell me what's happening, what's going on in the real world, and it was funny for the producer, because I'm also a big sports guy, and it was for the producers, I was like, what's going on in football, what's going on in baseball, because it was like pennant race time, and it was tough because you're cut off from everything.
I was wondering, Savannah, what is the quintessential North Carolina meal for you? Like when you think about North Carolina cuisine in the same way that Dan thinks about Milwaukee and Wisconsin cuisine, if the Sandhills of North Carolina or just North Carolina in general are hosting Top Chef, what are the sort of tentpole ingredients or tentpole items on the plate? Of course, I always get drawn to pulled pork or, like you did the fritters. I go to this place called Pick and Pig out in Carthage, North Carolina. It's one of my favorite places on earth. And that kind of is that homey pulled pork stuff that you can't really duplicate outside of North Carolina. So Savannah, is that like a cornerstone dish for you, is pulled pork or something around Carolina barbecue?
Yeah. I mean, I don't do a lot of barbecue. Like if I would call Michelle, yeah. But I think for sure, like you nailed it on the head, like that Eastern Carolina pork, the pulled pork. I would definitely hope to see like, sweet potatoes, something like that, or even going out to the coast, or maybe like you guys know what cookout is?
Oh, of course.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, come on.
Cheddar style tray, baby. Yeah.
Hopefully the producers are listening because I'm giving you some good stuff right now, like a cookout challenge, build a tray. How can you make this fancy?
I love that.
No, it's good. Just so I will be at Sunrise Biscuit Kitchen in exactly 9 days, Savannah, because I am going to Chapel Hill and will want your food recommendations. But I have this weird thing where there's something about the Sunrise Biscuit Kitchen in Chapel Hill that makes I ran a half marathon in Durham. It was actually a food truck half marathon in 2017 and beelined immediately to Sunrise Biscuit the minute the race was over.
Stop. That's amazing. You're going to be right down the road. So if you don't come into M Tempura, we're going to have some beef.
Are you there? Because I want to, that was my next thing is can I eat your cooking a weekend from now? Like you're at M Tempura?
Yeah, please come in.
Done. I will drop your name.
Oh my God.
When we make the table.
I mean, I'll be eating there on Tuesday.
This is fantastic. Do y'all have an event?
Yeah. Manny is doing a reunion dinner with myself, Dan, I believe, Kevin, and I think Sue will be joining us. So that will be really exciting. It's going to be at Jaguar Bolero, which is Manny's new spot in Raleigh.
Holy cow.
Yeah, you guys, come on, please come out.
This is amazing. So Manny's opening up a place or being a part of a place in Raleigh. He's going to be over there.
Yeah, it opened in May. He's the culinary director. So he will be bouncing around the country as they, get them off their feet. But It's so much fun. We had the pleasure of going to the opening night and friends and family. And I mean, it's so awesome to I'm like duck pin bowling and eating Manny's food. So it's like, what more can you ask for?
Oh, that's awesome. So Dan, what happened with the sardines?
Oh man, it was crazy. So I got the sardines and the woman on the counter asked me if I wanted them cleaned. And English was not her first language. And I think she just kind of missaid cleaned instead of cooked. So when I asked for them cleaned, they actually just started cooking them. So there were no sardines left. But it was, again, a great moment. This is like those Top Chef things. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to move out of one thing, go to another thing. And there were these beautiful little snappers. They're almost like little rougettes, which if you don't know what a rouget is, it's like a little tiny Mediterranean fish. It's just beautiful red, And it immediately was like, you know what, let's just go with those. And you just have to roll with those punches. I mean, it's just what Top Chef is. You just gotta, you fail most often when you try and squeeze that round peg into the square hole. You gotta be like water, man. You guys gotta be able to change it up.
And Savannah, what was your biggest sardine moment equivalent of, besides of course, the knife mishap at the fish boil, but what was a similar thing where it was out of your control and it just had to roll with the punches on that?
Oh man, I'm like, which one to choose? I feel like, the Indigenous challenge was interesting because, we all were like very civil the night before and like sat up and was like, okay, what are you thinking? Okay, well, we knew we had an idea of what would be in the pantry, but we had no idea like the quantities of it. And so, if it says duck eggs, it could be 20 or it could be 4. And so just like walking into that and kind of having an idea of what I was going to cook that day. And then, walking into the kitchen and being like, well, this is like what I have, and having to pivot in that way. That was, a positive turn of events. But I mean, I think that stuff happens. Oh my God, it happens more than it doesn't. So you kind of get used to it and for me, I just started planning from a point of view where it was very vague and I would more dial in as I was in the kitchen and I was cooking.
Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on a great season. Really excited to follow your careers. And that's kind of one of the cool things about Top Chef. It's just you meet these players and you follow their careers, and really excited to obviously also sample your food very soon.
Kevin, if you tried to take an at-bat on Greg Maddox, it wouldn't be as satisfying as being able to eat Dan's food or eating Savannah's food. So it's a little bit different, right? It's awesome.
Thanks so much. It was a true pleasure kind of listening along to you guys as well during the season. It was fun. My wife, Kate, was a real big listener. So she's like, nope, we got to listen to this one. This is a good one. This is good.
Oh, yeah. This was definitely the favorite. I was like, look, he's talking about North Carolina again. I was like, oh my God. It felt nice. It felt special. So dream come true. Thank you guys for having us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The pleasure's all ours. Oh, man, it was great to hear from the finalists there. Savannah, I might have went heavy on the barbecue, a little too heavy on the North Carolina barbecue, but you know what? It was great to hear that you enjoyed the Wisconsin and all the food and all the season. Great stories from the crew there. Again, congratulations to Danny. Now that we know that he has won it, really great to chop it up with them, Kevin.
Any closing thoughts as we put a cap on another Top Chef season?
I got to do a better job of trade management. It's a long season. It's a marathon. I can't be making these last second trades anymore. Although you probably would have won anyway. So you know what, Kevin? Hats off to you. Always a pleasure. Maze is asking, is that a three-peat? I believe it is a three-peat.
I think it is. We will try to sustain it. For Tom Haberstroh, for producer Anthony Maze, this is Kevin Arnovitz, and this is Pack Your Knives.